Signs in the sun, moon, and stars. Welcome to the watch. Today we're talking the rider on the white horse. The first thing that we're going to do is go to hiddeninthecrag.com. hiddeninthecrag.com. Here we are. Picture of Sagittarius, Revelation 6:2. And I saw, and behold, a white horse, and he that sat on him had a bow, and a crown was given unto him, and he went forth conquering and to conquer. If we look at this picture of Sagittarius, we see a rider on a horse with a bow, as if to go forward to conquer. So let's go to Stellarium. Here we are in Stellarium. We're going to go to Sagittarius. Let's see if we can get a little closer. Sorry for the noise. I do not have any of the special tools that I'm hoping to get soon to be able to do better videos. But here we are. Stellarium. Looking at Sagittarius, the rider on the white horse. All of these images of the constellations are always tied to the message of Christ, the Messiah. What we're looking at today is the date of December the 18th. This is the day that the sun enters the constellation of Sagittarius. And the sun is always going to be looked at as the rider on the horse. So if we look at the rider on the white horse, then we would be looking at the sun in the constellation of Sagittarius. And this happens between December the 18th and January the 17th every year during this time. In the ancient times, it was running earlier. I believe it was November the 21st till December the 20th, sometime in that zone. But it is almost an entire month out now because of the precession of the equinox. And so what we're looking at now is the sun entering the constellation of Sagittarius on December the 18th. And we find some very interesting signs that accompany this. The first thing that we see is Mercury, the messenger, Gabriel, is right on the border and enters into the constellation of Sagittarius the very next day. This has great significance because when the two are in the constellation together and they come in essentially the same day or a day later, what we're looking at is a sign. Something's being pointed out. So what we find in the constellation is Jupiter. This is the king planet. And what we are looking at this time is the great conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn. And if we scroll in and we get closer, we'll see that Saturn will show up right across the line. This is very important to be able to see, because this day, let me scroll in closer so you can take a really good look at this, and you can be able to really pay attention to what's going on here, because it's very important to be able to see this correctly. So what we have here is the planet Jupiter, and across the line we have the planet Saturn, and this is the line of Sagittarius on this side. Over on this side, you're now in the constellation of Capricorn, so we have a completely different meaning. And what we find is all of these signs being in Sagittarius, with the king planet and the sun, who is the bridegroom, and the messenger Gabriel, all being in Sagittarius. December the 18th, we are to look for more signs associated. So what we do next is we come over and we look at our other planets to see where they're positioned, to see if there's associating signs. And we find Venus has just come through Libra and is about to enter into the Crab's Claw. As we travel across the ecliptic, we look for any of the other planets to give us signs. We always look to Mars, being a representation of Michael, the warrior angel, being in Pisces, is typically a sign to the church. So anytime you have Mars in Pisces, you have a message to the church. So it could go twofold. It could be a message to what we call the sleeping church, or it could be a message to the bride. So depending on where the alignment is taking place, to me this looks like it is more a message to either the sleeping church or the whole body of Messiah, which is the sleeping church and the awake church. We also have Uranus, who is considered heaven, and Enoch at the head of Cetus, showing a sign of heaven conquering death and the sea monster, which is the underworld. Heaven conquering death. And we continue on, and our next sign is the moon is about to enter into the fish section of Capricorn. And this is very important because the first section is considered the goat that is dying, a sacrifice, and as the moon enters this next section, this would be considered new life or resurrection. If you've done your Mazzaroth studies, you know Capricorn is the sign of the resurrection. So this whole sign of the rider on the white horse with Jupiter and the sun being in Sagittarius. We know that Jupiter is the king planet, and we have the bridegroom, we have the sun and Jupiter together, a representation of Messiah riding the horse. We also have the messenger that enters the constellation a day later to show us a message. We have a twofold message here. The first message on the 18th is that the sun has entered into Sagittarius. The next day, on the 19th, as Jupiter transits into Capricorn, Mercury enters into Sagittarius. So what we see here is another message. And this message would be directed at the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction. So let's take a look at that a little closer. We're going to be going into more detail in another video in this section, but we want to give you a close-up of this on the 18th. So, we see here Jupiter still in the constellation of Sagittarius, and Saturn and its moons in the constellation of Capricorn. If you remember the line, we can scroll back and get the line in again, and it will give you an idea of it looks as if they're taking sides. And this conjunction will be the closest conjunction in over 300 years. So I look forward to discussing with you the Great Conjunction sign in another video. Thanks for watching. We look forward to having you come back for more signs in the sun, moon, and stars.